Hi guys, welcome back to another video. So this one's going to be a little bit the same as Ashton's strawberry birthmark video. This is just a sit down video in regards to Ashton's milk allergy. I wanted to make this video just because I didn't know about this prior to having Ashton, so I wanted to make this video to warn, or not warn, but to make aware to other expectant mums, other parents, other people, just to let them know that it is a common thing. So he has a cow's milk protein allergy, so they call it. Now this video is going to be a little bit too much information. It's going to be about breastfeeding and stuff, so if that doesn't interest you, then yeah, don't watch. Just letting you all know that I do have my laptop here beside me. I have jotted down notes because it is a long story, so if you see me glancing backwards and forwards, that's why. When Ashton was born, everything was fine until we learnt that my milk was taking a bit longer than usual to come in. I personally started leaking at 21 weeks, so I thought, great, I'm going to be able to have a great breastfeeding journey. I've always wanted to breastfeed, like I was gung-ho, like certain that I was going to breastfeed. Little did I know that certain things could go wrong. Day 3 passed and all Ashton would do would just scream and cry, and he would just eventually pass out from exhaustion, and so he would just wake for a bottle, have a bottle, scream, cry. We thought that he was still hungry, so we would feed him more, etc., and the cycle would just go on. Now this went on for so long, which you'll see. We thought obviously something was up. We didn't know what though. We had the nurse come by and visit on day 2, and this is when I was changing his nappies that I noticed that they were orange. Being a first time mum, I had no idea that you had to look at the colour of Bubby's nappies. I mean, it's common sense to me now, but you know, an overwhelmed first time mum, first time parents, we had no idea what to look for or anything like that. He was so dehydrated, and he had lost roughly, I believe it was about 300 to 350 grams in the first few days that we brought him home, which was a big alarm bell. Which obviously means that he was getting no milk from me whatsoever. But again, first time parents, we had no idea. Bubby was latching on, he seemed fine, he would fall asleep on the boob, so we thought everything was great. I felt so horrible knowing that Ashton was actually getting no milk from me. As a first time mum, everything is so overwhelming, and you honestly, you have no idea what you're doing. You are just winging it all, learning as you go. Thankfully, I had my parents here. My mum and dad came and stayed with us pretty much for the first week that Bubby was born. Also, I obviously had my amazing partner Brendan, who just helped me as much as he could, even though, you know, I was trying to breastfeed and there wasn't too much that he could do, but he would always try and keep me calm, give me so much support, keep me sane with all my hormones going all over the place. It was ridiculous. So the nurse that came here that day, on the 3rd day, and we figured out that Ashton was dehydrated and lost a lot of weight, they ended up referring me on to a lactation consultant straight away. They thought maybe it was a latch. We needed to do something else to try and help my milk supply come in as fast as possible. In the meantime, whilst waiting for our appointment for the lactation consultant to come through, we were told to substitute Ashton with formula because obviously he wasn't getting enough milk from me, so we had to feed him. So Brendan rushed out and got some formula. After a fair bit of research, we found the Care formula. This is where everything just gets horribly worse. I didn't think that it could get any worse, but it did. I ended up giving up on all attempts to breastfeed Ashton. My milk still wasn't coming in no matter what we tried. It was just obviously not meant to be. So by the time Ashton was a week old, he was fully formula fed, which was a bit disheartening, but fed is best. And breastfeeding is a tough gig, especially, you know, I think I got thrown in the deep end with my milk not coming in. So it was so much more stressful. People pretty much, well, the perception I get is that breastfeeding's easy. You know, it's the easiest way to feed a baby, but honestly, I give props to those breastfeeding mums. It is hard work. It is so mentally challenging. Maybe not for everyone, but my personal experience, it's so mentally challenging having a baby always on you 24/7. I know that that's what you have to expect when you're having a baby, but I just don't think you really know until you have your first baby and start breastfeeding. So yeah, as I said, after a whole lot of research, we ended up putting Ashton on KeriCare formula. Heaps of my fellow mummy friends recommended it. Their kids were on it. My mum used it with us, so we thought, why not? We'll put Ashton on KeriCare since we know it works and it's good. We thought changing to formula, he would be happy, he would be fed, all the screaming would stop, all of our worries would go away. We could finally start enjoying having our newborn baby, but boy, were we wrong. The screaming just continued. We literally thought that he was just hungry all the time, so we would make up another bottle every hour, and then he would just have a bottle, scream, and then pass out from exhaustion. I googled so many things on what it could be, like, you know, a lot of things were saying colic, a lot of things were saying reflux, silent reflux, just a crying baby, just a hungry baby. But honestly, a lot of the symptoms didn't really line up. If anything, the colic symptoms might have lined up, but they are very similar to the cow's milk allergy protein. When I was Googling, not one thing came up about cow's milk allergy, so this is obviously why I never came across it or thought of it. Who would think that a baby would have an allergy to cow's milk? Like, it's the one thing that they need, and I had no idea that a baby could be allergic to it. So yeah, with Ashton drinking so much, we obviously thought that he was just hungry, but little did we know that he was just comfort feeding due to the tummy pains that he was having that the formula was causing him. Every time he was awake, he would just cry. He was never happy. He would literally just cry or grizzle or, you know, be squirmy or something like that. It must have been excruciating for him, and I feel horrible thinking back to it. Like, it was the worst time. I feel like we got robbed with our newborn baby, and he just had the worst start to childhood, and it is not fair whatsoever. Some nights it could take us hours to get Ashton to go to sleep. He'd be in that much pain. We'd still be up at 2 o'clock in the morning trying to get Bubby to go to sleep. We would try so many different things, baths, everything. Baths obviously helped a lot. Warm baths were just his favorite. That would give us half an hour of just peace, but still, as soon as we got him out of the bath, he was just back to a screaming, unhappy baby in pain. Of a night time, Ashton would only sleep on his tummy. This is where we pretty much picked up that he probably was having tummy issues, for the fact that when he was asleep on his tummy, he would stay asleep for a few hours. This was like the only time that we could get a few hours sleep in. The pressure on his tummy was obviously helping. We would use a warm wheat pack on his tummy as well. I don't know, you know, women, you would know that when you have period pain, something like that, you put a warm heat pack on there and it does feel a little bit better. So we did try all those things, hence why the warm bath probably soothed him as well. Every time he would feed, or after he would feed, he would go bright red, he would arch his back, he would just cry. The cry was just excruciating. Like, it gave me goosebumps every time, and I just wanted to cry with him because I didn't know what to do. I had no idea. So anyway, after about 2 weeks, 3 weeks on the formula, we ended up taking Ashton to the doctor. We had had enough. Clearly it wasn't doing any good, him being on the formula, and we really wanted to figure out what was wrong with our boy. The doctor ended up just putting it down to colic, sending us home, telling us to change onto this, onto this, I can't remember the name of it, but some type of colic formula. They said to give it 2 or 3 weeks and see how we go on it. Hopefully we see some change. And so we went straight out and we brought this new tin of formula. I didn't really want to change formula, but I thought if he does have colic and this is going to help him, then I'm going to do anything. I do know that chopping and changing formulas is not very good for Bubby, but in this instance we had no choice. We needed to try and figure out what was wrong with him. By this stage, Ashton was about 5 to 6 weeks old. I ended up Googling ways to help a baby with colic. I read that it could take up to months, years for it to go away, which was absolutely terrifying. There was this fancy medicine from WA. We ended up getting paid like $80 for this little bottle that would last us like a week or something, that you would have to give Bubby. It's meant to be the bee's knees. I have heard so many reviews on it, so we thought, why not, let's give it a go. We ended up getting it shipped here. It had to be refrigerated the whole time, so we got it shipped straight to us. We were in Gladstone for a funeral at the time, so it was a bit annoying to try and get there, but we ended up getting it and trying it on Ashton. It smelt like metho and it done absolutely nothing for us. Just made things 10 times worse. He absolutely hated it. So that was the end of that. A big waste of $80, but it done absolutely nothing, which then made us realize that clearly he did not have colic. Like, everyone that I spoke to that had a colicky baby told me that this would work, that the screaming would stop, everything would stop. So when it didn't, it was clear that it was not colic. Ashton did not have colic. There was something more that was wrong with him, and we needed to try and figure it out ASAP. So after trying the medicine and having a failed result, we ended up taking Ashton back to the doctors. We actually ended up going through like 5 or 6 different doctors before we got any answers. Everyone kept saying to us, it's colic, it's reflux, it's silent reflux. One lady even had the audacity to say that we just had a whingy baby and that we were first time parents and that this is what newborns are like. I knew and we fully expected that a baby will cry and newborns will cry, but they do not cry 24/7. Absolutely not. Definitely not 24/7. That was just, probably the worst thing that you could hear. When you're taking your baby into the nurses, you would expect them to try and listen and try and help, but not just tell you that you have a whinging baby or that you're a first time parent and that you're just overwhelmed. And yeah, it wasn't nice to hear that whatsoever. We were honestly at our wits' end. We kept trying to get answers for our baby. No one would listen to us. We were fed up with everyone. I even drove out to Mooroombah, 2 hours from where I live now, to try and see my old childhood doctor that I used to see, and my parents' family doctor, to see if he could even help, but he put it down to silent reflux as well, which was a little frustrating, but everyone just said it. So at a point we kind of maybe just believed that we did just have a whingy baby and a crying baby, but still there was something deep inside me that was like, no, there's something a little bit more wrong. It started to get so bad that at one point I said to Brendan, I don't want to be a mum anymore. Like, Ashton deserves so much better. Like, if this is normal and I can't handle a baby crying, I'm not meant to be a mum. It's not fair on Ashton to have to deal with his mum crying all day because she can't handle her own baby crying all day. It's not that I didn't love Ashton, at that time I was so low, and it was the worst time of our lives. Like, me and Brennan went through hell and back trying to figure out what was wrong with our boy. Thankfully we stuck it out and we fought for him, but it was seriously the worst. So after Ashton was 8 weeks old, Brendan ended up going back to work, so I was left on my own with Bubby. Brendan works away in the mines, and one night, after a really horrible night, by this point Ashton hadn't pooed for 5 days, and he was pushing as if he needed to poo. He was screaming, he was crying, he was up all night. I was absolutely fed up. I woke up the next morning and I was so furious. I had no sleep and I wanted answers, and I wanted answers today. If no one was going to refer me on to a pediatrician, due to this point we had been to the doctors, you know, like 6 or 7 times, and none of us would help us or refer us on when we had asked. So what I done was I packed a bag for myself, I packed a bag for Ashton, and I went straight up to the emergency department, and I pretty much demanded to see a pediatrician. They couldn't turn me away, so I was like, this is my last resort. I'd done this for weeks. I'd tried just powering through, trying to find some answers through a GP. Nothing was happening, so I cracked it and I took him straight to the emergency department, where finally a pediatrician seen him. Due to Ashton being only 10 weeks old at this stage, yeah, I believe it was 10 weeks old, a pediatrician had to see him straight away, which was great. We weren't kept waiting or anything like that. They took really good care of us. So I finally had a pediatrician come in and see Ashton. She asked me what was wrong. I let her know everything. I showed her photos of Ashton's nappies, of his bowel movements, to show what they looked like, because they were not right. I showed her videos of Ashton straight after he would have a bottle, how he would arch his back, how he would go red, things like that. We just had to explain in detail as much as possible. We let her know all the medications that we had tried for silent reflux, for colic, the different formulas that we had tried, etc. And I explained to her that we had already been to 6 or 7 GPs before this, and they had put it down to, you know, colic and silent reflux, etc. But still no fix, and they would not refer me on to a pediatrician, so I had no point but to bring Ashton straight down here. Within minutes of explaining this to the peds, they pretty much had a diagnosis straight away. They let me know that they believe that it was cow's milk protein allergy. I had no idea what this was. She explained it to me, and honestly, I don't know why a pediatrician can listen to what I say in 5 minutes and let me know that this is what they believe it is, but yet I'd been to 6 or 7 doctors and not one of them had mentioned cow's milk protein allergy. Even when I googled, not one thing came up about cow's milk protein allergy, like the symptoms or anything like that. I would write his symptoms into Google and still not even that would come up. So once they had diagnosed him, we got a script straight away with this new formula for Ashton to go onto. It is specially for babies with cow's milk protein allergy. It is, you can only get it via script only. It's not something you can get on the shelf. You get a month's worth at a time. Thankfully, we don't have to pay for this formula. This formula is very expensive. They only come in 400-gram tins, which any mums out there, it is half the size of a normal size tin that you get from the supermarket. The ones from supermarket are about 800 to 900 grams, so you tend to use one of those a week. So for us, we would be using 2 tins a week, so we need 8 tins for the month, and these are $40 a tin, so this would mean $80 a week. Thankfully, we do not have to pay for this. I mean, I would pay for it if I had to. I would do anything to help Ashton. Anyone knows this, so I wouldn't care about the price. But yeah, I'm just so thankful that we do not have to pay for it and that it's covered. It would help so many people out, It's an expense that you don't think of, but it is an expense that can happen. From the moment Ashton finished his first bottle of this new formula, he was honestly a new baby. I no longer had a baby that screamed like straight after his bottle. It was like magic. I don't know how it happened like straight away, but honestly, from his first bottle, no more arching his back, no more screaming, and he went 3 or 4 hours before having his next bottle. Like, oh, I felt like I had my baby, like I finally had my baby. I was just so thankful that they actually finally listened to me and gave me a script for this formula. For a few weeks after Ashton started his new formula, I felt so guilty. I thought maybe if I had persevered with breastfeeding, that I just stuck it out, I put my mental state aside, and I thought of Ashton, that maybe he wouldn't have gone through all this pain. I kept blaming myself. You know, if I just persevered, just breastfed him, that everything would have been fine. He wouldn't have to chop and change formulas. He wouldn't have been in so much pain. But honestly, I just got to a point where I thought, no, stop. Like, everything happens for a reason. I now know about cow's milk allergy. I can now put my story out there and let everyone else know. Help other mums out there that may not know about cow's milk allergy either. I mean, I had no idea about it, so if my story can help someone else, then great. Now, due to Ashton having cow's milk allergy, we were advised not to introduce any dairy to him when it was come time to introduce solids. We were told no dairy at all, not until after he's 1, due to by the time they're 1, they generally have grown out of the cow's milk allergy. It just means that their little system is not mature enough to digest the protein that's in cow's milk. So for this reason, yeah, they just advise not to introduce any dairy whatsoever until they're 1, and it would be supervised. So we would go back to the pediatricians and they would let us know what to introduce and when and how much, etc. After Ashton turned 6 months old, I just had this feeling one day that I wanted to try him on a teaspoon of custard. So anyway, I ended up trying him on, I think it was maybe like 2 or 3 teaspoons of baby custard to see how he would go. And he reacted perfect. I gave it a few days. I thought, oh, maybe within a few hours I'll see something. Maybe within a few days I'll see something. But he was honestly great. His bowel movement stayed the same. He was not in any pain, wasn't screaming, didn't cry, anything like that. So I ended up going to see the peds and I let them know that I had tried custard on him. So I ended up just introducing more and more gradually over time, over a few weeks, and he got to a point where he was having a full jar of custard with no issues at all. They then said that I could start introducing some yogurt, sorry. So I introduced some yogurt. Again, he was perfectly fine. I then started mashing his vegetables and things like that with our normal milk out of the fridge and with butter, just little things like that, and we still didn't have any issues at all with it. So I kind of think that Ashton has probably grown out of it, but he will not be removed off this formula until he transitions onto our normal milk out of the fridge. This being due to the fact that if you chop and change baby's formula, like, it's just not good. Like, you don't do that. And again, the formula, if we reverted back to Kerry Care, for example, it could still be maybe too strong for Bubby's tummy. So we will just keep him on this formula until he starts to transition off for it onto normal household milk after he turns 1. The point of this video is just to get our story out there and let mums, parents, family members know that this is a thing. We were turned away so many times in the start, but I just kept pushing. Mama always knows best. So I'm glad that I kept pushing for answers, and I ended up just taking him to the ED because honestly I needed to help my boy. There was, you know, every day that went past I was like, there's got to be something I can do, there's got to be something that I can do. So parents, if you're out there watching, just know that if you do have a gut feeling, it is probably right. So just keep pushing. If you have to, take them to emergency. The pediatricians have to see them. They can't turn you away. I hope that this video has helped someone out there. If not, it's got our story out. So if you all enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe. I appreciate all your views and everything that you guys are doing to support my channel. So I guess I will see you all in the next video. Bye guys.